everyone. Welcome to our third concert of 2020. The Concert Series Committee is very happy to present to you Westwind Brass today. As you can see, we are getting ready for our online recording. Westwind Brass has been around for over 30 years. They play for all kinds of audiences, from formal to education. They play all kinds of music, from classical to jazz to Broadway, you name it, they play it. They are artists in residence at San Diego State University, and they are very happy to be here today, and you'll see why after you view this little interview that we did together right before they play. I think you're gonna like it. So enjoy the show, sit back in your own home, and again, you can watch this all month of October. It'll be posted on our website, and click on the YouTube button. So enjoy. Well, look how nice you guys look up there. We are so happy that you are with us tonight, and we are so happy that we are able to do this concert in spite of the situation that we're in. So let's just ask a few questions, and I think I'd like to start with John. John, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Westwind Brass and when it got started?
Westwind Brass was formed in 1988. Shortly after I arrived in San Diego, I was asked to be on the original board of the Westwind Brass. Barry Toombs, the founder of Westwind Brass, asked me to assist with that. Westwind Brass played extensively in Southern California region, developing a lot of clients in small venues, churches, and in school systems. And that became sort of one of the most important parts of Westwind Brass's work. As professional musicians, the most important thing we can do is teach, right? And Westwind Brass realized that early in its inception. By the mid-90s, Westwind Brass was playing quite a few of its concerts in schools. I would say 50 to 60 of them per season. I joined the group in 1996, and by that time they were starting to play in museums and other concert venues, regular concert series, and by the early 2000s, Westwind Brass was touring nationally and also extending its educational programs throughout North America.
This next question is for Karl. Karl, why don't you piggyback on that answer and just tell us what you do and what kind of music you play?
Well, Westwind Brass, we play, I don't want to say all, but almost all styles of music. We play music from the canon of repertoire for brass ensemble, and we do enjoy adding members to the group and playing large brass ensemble works by Gabrielli and the Philip Jones repertoire. All the standard literature for brass we play, but we have other interests too. And we're lucky to have people in the group that compose for the group. Lots of works by Brent Dutton. I myself am a composer and arranger, and you don't often find some of the styles of music we like to play commercially available. So we transcribe works, we adapt works. Today's concert will be all jazz works, and most of them are arranged by myself. And I think we have one by Jack Gale, which is commercially available. But we do enjoy playing a variety of styles of music.
Well, thank you, Karl and John. So my next question is for Eric. So since Karl and John has kind of described all these things that you've done up to this point, can you describe what it's like now through these last 6-7 months of COVID and how that's affected you all?
Sure. I think anyone working in music or the entertainment industry has been affected pretty dramatically. Speaking for myself, I try to recognize that there are many, many things right now that are just beyond my control and beyond our control. So trying to focus on things that I personally can do to both continue my work as a musician and as a teacher. And it means teaching through Zoom with audio gear that I had no idea how to use 6 months ago, and now I'm getting a lot better with it. It means accepting that I'm going to be doing some teaching through Zoom and through various digital means, and just making the best of that, and knowing that remaining patient is really important right now because, again, there's so many things beyond our control. I think some of us have a lot more time at home now, which is something different. Rehearsing for this concert has been one of the few times that I've left my house at night in the last 6 months. And it's been really great to actually play music with people. We've all been practicing on our own, but playing with people is a different layer of gratification. And finding things to do with my time just as a person to be productive have been really great. I've been doing a lot of cooking, a lot of baking, things that take a lot of time to do, and then you get something really delicious at the end are really nice. Spending a lot more time reading and hanging out with my wife at home has been really, really great. So trying to find some positives in the situation and just, maintain and be patient and accept what I can control and make the most of that. And I think we all are along those same lines.
And we're just so glad that you're here and we can do this.
We're glad to be here.
Thank you, Eric. So this next question is for Scott, and I think there's probably a lot of people that are wondering how you all pick your instruments. I mean, why the tuba and not the piccolo?
Well, the piccolo is for people that don't want struggles in life. They want it easy. I decided very early on to pick a challenge because I'm a very gifted musician that needs a challenge. And all of my colleagues, I'm sure here, would agree with everything I just said. So I started out on piano. I took lessons for a few years, and then my dad played trombone, and so I played trombone for a year in elementary school until LA Unified cut all the elementary school band programs. And then I did it again in middle school, and then they cut the middle school band program as well. So I did it for...
it was you.
Yeah, actually, it was all me. They said, if this is the product that we're going to be turning out, we got to cut all of this. But then I actually, in high school, I played a little trombone, and then my band director said, we graduated all of our tuba players. You, sir, are going to play tuba. And I was pretty reluctant at the beginning because it's quite the behemoth. But, I played a couple of notes, and I shook the house, and I felt, with great power comes great responsibility. And so I took that to heart and got some lessons, and here I am.
All right, thanks. Okay, last but not least, Mike. So I think I was strongly encouraged to ask you why the horn, the French horn, and not the tuba?
That's why. I don't want to be like that. But no, seriously, no, Scott and I go way back, and I don't want to be like that. So, no, and I went to the San Diego School for the Creative and Performing Arts, and I went there from 4th grade through 12th grade. And in 4th grade, you go through something called arts exploration, and you try out dance and drama and art and music. And I originally started on trumpet. I was terrible. 5th grade and 6th grade, I was on trumpet. In fact, I finally got onto one of the big main stage productions there at the school, and it was for the Music Man. It was because they needed really bad players on stage, and that's how I did that. So my band director finally said, we're going to cut our losses. I would like you to play tuba, and put me on tuba, and put my best friend on French horn. Well, my sister played horn at the time, and my mom and my grandmother both played horn in their time in high school. So I was kind of bummed out about it, but it was the tuba. I was trying something different, and we played it for 2 weeks. I was at my friend's house. We switched, just, hey, what's your instrument like? Hey, what's your instrument like? And that was it. I switched for good at that point. He still plays tuba today, and I still play horn today. I graduated that school. I went to San Diego State. I went to Boston Conservatory, and it's treated me pretty well. I've been pretty happy with it.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for your answers. And we look forward to the concert in a few minutes, or right now. Enjoy.
Our concert begins this evening with a piece of what was considered traditional jazz. The roots of jazz extend into the end of the 19th century, but this piece in particular is of note. It is from the year 1917, and it was originally recorded by the original Dixieland Jazz Band. That's 2 S's. The band was formed in New Orleans, traveled to Chicago on invitation to play at a club, and then the reputation of the band grew, and recording companies asked them to come to New York and make an actual wax cylinder recording of this. So this is the first commercially recorded jazz piece. Now, we owe a lot to the predecessors to the original Dixieland Jazz Band. They were people who had no formal training, no resources, no music. They came to the music arts completely untrained and making things up as they were doing it. So the act of spontaneously composing as a group extends from the end of the 19th century, very humble beginnings, and it's flowered into a very sophisticated and diverse and rich American art form. I hope you enjoy the original Dixieland Jazz Band. One Step.
I'm going to take some time right now to introduce Westwind Brass and our guest artist. We have John Wilds on trumpet, Mike McCoy on French horn, Scott Sutherland on the tuba, not the piccolo, and Eric Starr on trombone. Our guest today is Matt Smith on the drums, a very necessary member for jazz music, and my name is Karl Soukup. We are going to be exploring lots of sub-genres of jazz in this concert. So we played some early jazz music just now, and now we're going to play music influenced by jazz. Jazz has influenced the world. It's been embraced by the world. So we're going to play a piece that is kind of like a bossa nova, and bossa nova is Brazil's reaction to jazz, essentially, and jazz musicians embrace bossa nova wholeheartedly. So we're going to play a tune that is perhaps the most famous of jazz. It's come to be known as a jazz standard in the bossa nova style, Black Orpheus, from the movie Black Orpheus in 1959. And it's a beautiful theme by Luis Bonfa. And we're going to start it in more of a traditional style and then go into kind of an up bossa or slow samba almost. And the chords are very much influenced by jazz, and there's quite a bit of improvisation too. Hope you enjoy.
Next on the program is a piece called Boy Meets Horn, and this was co-written by Duke Ellington and Rex Stewart. Duke Ellington is someone that likely many people have heard of. He's one of the great 20th century American musicians, and throughout his career, he cultivated his band and finished with what would be considered a modern-day big band or jazz band. Maybe not as well known as that early in his career, Duke Ellington started with a much smaller group, and he added people not because he necessarily wanted a bigger sound, but he found different musicians interesting in that they had unique skill sets. And the co-composer of this piece, Rex Stewart, played trumpet or cornet with Duke Ellington's band, and he added him specifically for the unique way that he played the trumpet. And Rex Stewart was the king of what is known as the half-valve technique, which if you're familiar with our instruments, we play metal tubes, that's the simple way of putting it. As you press these valves down, the air gets directed in various ways, and if you press a valve halfway down, it goes multiple ways, and it causes kind of a funny sound to come out of the trumpet. So Karl likes playing this piece because he gets to play the solos, and if he makes any mistakes, we'll never know because it all sounds like Rex Stewart playing the half-valve technique. But I think this is it's a really fun piece, really, really charming, and just personally, I think it's really interesting that Ellington added people to his band, again, not because he wanted a big band, but he thought, that person plays their instrument in a really interesting way. I would like to have them in my group. So this is a really interesting look at that. So we hope you enjoy Duke Ellington and Rex Stewart's Boy Meets Horn.
Hi. As Karl said, I still am Scott Sutherland, and this is actually the distinction of my first concert as a new member of the Westwind Brass. It's a pleasure to be here, and I get the honor of introducing Thelonious Monk's "Round Midnight," which hopefully many of you have heard before. There was a very famous movie in 1986 that went by the same name and featured this particular tune in the score. This tune was written by the great jazz pianist Thelonious Monk in the mid-40s, and it came to wide acclaim. In fact, in 1955, I believe, at the Newport Jazz Festival, Miles Davis played this tune, and it was that concert that actually had a representative from Columbia Records sitting in the audience listening to that, was so wowed by it, he was signed to Columbia Records shortly thereafter. So it's really quite a remarkable tune. This is a jazz ballad, and we really wanted to have a very special setting. So we decided that it really needed a very large tuba solo in the middle of it, as only befitting a really great and classic standard. No more trumpet. We've clearly heard too much trumpet at this point, so it needs to be really about the tuba. And I just want to let you all know that if you hear any missed notes, it's really me just channeling Rex Stewart in that very famous extended technique of half valving around midnight. Here we go.
Well, I hope you are enjoying the show. If you would like to support this group and Hope UMC, you can give in many ways. You can give through our website here at church. You can give through Venmo. And you can also mail in a check. Make sure that when you do these things that you specify that it's for this Westwind Brass concert. Otherwise, the funds might go to something else. So thank you so much for your donations and your views, and enjoy the rest of the show.
The first thing you'll note about this next piece is that John and I are going to be playing on flugelhorns. Flugelhorn is basically like a swollen trumpet. It's got the same length of tubing, so it plays in the same key, but it is conically bored instead of bored like a cylinder, so it has a much warmer quality of sound, and that's why we're going to play it on this piece called Little Sunflower by Freddie Hubbard. We've been exploring some different subgenres of jazz in this performance, and we're going to continue to branch out here into what you could call modal jazz, where instead of in the last piece we play, there's a chord change, there's a progression that's going by once every 2 beats, there's a new chord, and it's very dense chordally. This is the opposite. There's one chord for a long time, 16 measures before the chord changes. So there's time for you to kind of stew in the mode of the moment, and as a soloist to experiment maybe with notes that grind against the mode and then come back into the mode. And that's kind of the vibe of this kind of jazz, which was, you could say, Miles Davis had a lot to do with the beginning of modal jazz with the album Kind of Blue. But this is another trumpeter, Freddie Hubbard, contemporary and a youngster when Miles was playing that stuff in the late 50s. And he's considered one of the great modern trumpeters, Freddie Hubbard. And he had an inimitable style, which I won't even try to imitate. I'll just do my own thing. So this is Little Sunflower.
The next tune in our set is called Fables of Faubus, and this is composed by the American double bassist Charles Mingus. Fables of Faubus is about a situation that happened in Arkansas in 1957 where the governor, Orville Faubus, which I think is a name that's really out of style. I haven't met anyone named Orville in a while. But Orville Faubus was governor of Arkansas when they were forced by the United States Supreme Court in a unanimous decision to integrate the schools. And Governor Faubus did not want to do this and brought in the National Guard to stop the integration of the public schools in Arkansas. And Charles Mingus wrote this tune very shortly thereafter. That was 1957, and this tune was released and recorded by, I think, 1959. So it was in musical terms, that's a pretty quick reaction. And it's called Fables of Faubus, alluding to essentially the mistakes that this person in power was making by blocking the integration of the schools in Arkansas. Also noteworthy in this piece is going to be the amazing work of our timekeeper and the person who is legitimately holding us together today, and that is Matthew Elton Smith on drums. Yeah. We think the drum solo will be obvious. You'll be able to find it. But really, he's an awesome drummer and really is keeping us together. We tried this without him, and we had to call him in. It makes all the difference. So thanks for joining us. And we hope you enjoy Charles Mingus's Fables of Faubus.
On behalf of Westwind Brass, we'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Wendy Callan and Hope United Methodist Church for hosting this concert. It's been a breath of fresh air for us in this very strange time that we're living in now. It's been great to play with these guys again. I want to mention our website, westwindbrass.org. We are continuing to try to do educational outreach in the COVID era, so we do appreciate any support you can give us. And once again, thank you very much for having us. So we're going to end the concert today with a medley of tunes by perhaps one of the most famous jazz musicians ever, Louis Armstrong, and the most beloved, certainly one of the most influential jazz musicians. It's kind of funny about jazz musicians. They have these funny nicknames like the Prez or Count Basie or Duke Ellington. Louis Armstrong had many nicknames. He was called Satchel Mouth. He was called Dipper Mouth. He had some issues with his lip. I think those were some of the sources of those names. But my favorite name for him is Pops, because I like to think of him as the grandfather of jazz. So I asked a bunch of my colleagues and friends what tunes they liked of that were made famous by Louis Armstrong, and I got a very long list, but I pared it down to the tunes I thought were musicians' tunes, and also tunes that just the public loves and adores. So we have things like Cornet Chop Suey, up next to things like Hello Dolly and Wonderful World and When the Saints Go Marching In. So we hope you enjoy this, our last selection for the evening, and thanks a lot.
How's your lips, Karl?
Do I want to say something? Thanks, everybody. Good night. Take care.